Hey everyone, welcome back. Happy Sunday to you all. Hopefully you guys had a great weekend. Mine was a little crazy. We had nice weather on Friday and Saturday in the 60s, 70s, and 80s even on Friday, and then today we had snow. So go figure, it's March, right? It's going to be wild and crazy. Kind of like the market is right now. Bitcoin is kind of all over the place here over the weekend right now. We have a huge short position by somebody, and some people are trying to liquidate them. We'll get into that. We'll also take a look at Digital. They reported their quarterly results and fiscal year-end numbers for Q4 2024. We'll take a look at the miners, how they did last week, the large ones and the small ones as well while we're at it. And then that should be pretty much it. Then we'll get into you guys' Q&A as always, and we'll call it a day and see how things go. So we'll also take a look at what's going on the calendar for this week for, well, the economy and everything else, okay? But we got to go through this as always. Not financial advice, for entertainment only. Please do your own research. Full disclosure below that. Hit the like button, subscribe. Helps me out tremendously. And let's take a look at what's going on with Bitcoin here right now on the weekend. And where are we heading this week possibly? So Bitcoin was kind of, well, it's down for the weekend, basically, we can say that. But we finished out today on Sunday. We were down approximately 2.12%. We closed at 82,562. Bitcoin was up a little bit on Saturday. It was up 0.44%. We're up a little bit on the new day for Monday here. We're up 0.48% as well as it is right now. And we'll see where this one goes. We're below our 200 simple day moving average on Bitcoin right now as it is on the daily. RSI on the 1 day, I mean, let's see if we can find some. I'm looking at the peaks here right now. Last one to see if there's anything recent here at least. I mean, we're pretty close to where we were back here. So price is still lower from where we were back then. At that point, price closed at 86,000. We are right now at 82,000. So we're still lower on the price. RSI is about flat, give or take a little bit here on that one. We talked about the miners on Friday already, so we're not going to get into that at all. In this part of it, we do have one story here that looks like somebody was trying to short like $400 million on Bitcoin here. And we have that on this one here. So John Trades MBA on X posted, Bitcoin whale is still holding his short position, now valued at 455,179,000. Roughly, it looks like Twitter degens couldn't squeeze him out. And then we do have some other news here as well. That's Bitcoin historian breaking the whale who opened a 400 million Bitcoin short is taking profits and closing his trade. He's going along BTC, possibly. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see if that's the case. And then some people are calling this a Trump insider as well, that opened up a 40x long or a short position, is publicly being hunted on X by a group of people who are trying to liquidate him at 86,600. So it's interesting to see. And then we have people buying as well. Somebody bought 6 Bitcoin valued at about 509,000, trying to liquidate this 40x short on here. So people are definitely going after this person or group or whoever this is that's shorting Bitcoin here at these prices. So we'll have to wait and see how Bitcoin plays out for this week. We have a lot of stuff happening here as well for it. Bitcoin right now is still down 2.1% on March. We're about halfway through March as it is right now. Not much time left with where we are standing right now on it. And here's some of the data that we do have coming up here for the economic calendar. That's not it. That's not what I wanted. I wanted the calendar. Sorry. Okay, here we go. And here's what we got. So we are going to next week here. We have some data coming out on Monday, which is going to be retail sales month over month, retail sales year over year. We also have down here on Tuesday, building permits for housing as well, month over month. Housing starts month over month. Import prices also will be interesting to take a watch at that one year over year as well. See how that's coming up. Industrial production, that's going to be interesting as well. And then Wednesday, we have the FOMC meeting here coming up as well. That's going to be at, there it is, Fed press conference at 1:30. I think that's Eastern time. So we do have that, the interest rates, FOMC economic projections. That's kind of where we are at for January. We don't have the data for February yet. We'll get that obviously this week. The press conference is going to be interesting to see there what that one is. The forecast is for the interest rates to stay at where they are, basically at 4.5. But we'll see what the Fed says on it. So it might be another rough week for Bitcoin here, depending on whether Papa Powell sounds dovish or hawkish on the economy. Going forward, I think that's going to be a big catalyst for the direction that Bitcoin goes, and well, towards the middle part to the end of the month or end of the week here on that one. So keep an eye on that. We'll definitely talk about it when it does happen there, and we'll see where things take us at this point. But there's definitely a lot of capitulation here in the markets over the last couple of months. Like I've said before, on my own channel here, I'm noticing that people are unsubscribing more than I'm getting subscribers, which that has actually, this is like the first time I'm seeing it. It's being on here for now, what, roughly 3 years. So a lot of people are definitely pessimistic, capitulating on Bitcoin miners as well. And I can see that in the stats that I have through YouTube Studio. But it's not a lot. It's a small amount. Right now, I think we're, last reported was 9 less subscribers. So we're actually losing subscribers here, which is not a big deal. I can't expect this to happen when Bitcoin was going into a bear market. So are we actually going into a bear market now? I don't know. I don't think we are. I think we're still going to have a pretty good rally here towards the end of the year. People are still calling for Bitcoin to be much higher from where it is right now. I just think that things need to quiet down a little bit with all the turmoil with President Trump and the tariffs being on, being off, being on, being off, right? That's never a good sign for the market in general. Market wants clarity, wants stability. It's not getting that right now, and I think once we do get that, things will stabilize. But that could take us still several days, several weeks, several months. We don't know exactly when that's going to clear itself all up once all of that is done and over with. So in the meantime, we could be definitely in some more turbulent times, or turbulent waters, I guess you could say, on it. All right, so that's kind of what I'm keeping an eye on right now as it is. Let's go back to what else do we have here to cover really quick. BitDigital. BitDigital provided us with their numbers. We'll get into that as well. Let's do that now, and then we'll get into the weekly performance of the miners and everything else on it. So here's BitDigital. They announced their fiscal year-end numbers, right? Financial highlights. They did change up the way that they are reporting things. We'll get into that in a second as well. But you guys are more than welcome to look at this, all their data here. And then they obviously provided their 10K for the year, which was good to see. And why is it? There it goes. Yeah, there's a lot of data in here, a lot of information as well. I have not gone through it all yet. I did pull in all the data for my spreadsheets here, so let's get into that. We'll get into the small miners really quick. Get on BitDigital here. And another thing that I noticed on BitDigital here is they are not providing, or at least have not yet provided their operational update for February. The last one that I have for them is January here. So are they going the same route as TeraWolf and no longer providing those updates monthly as they transition more and more into HPC AI business? That could be a factor. I may reach out to Sam Tabar, the CEO there on X, see if he can provide maybe clarification on that, if that is going to be the case where they don't provide those numbers going forward. But right now, it kind of seems like it, because we're 16 days in roughly into the month of February or March, and we still don't have the February updates yet, okay? But here's what we got on BitDigital. I should update the number of shares that they have, because they did update that here. I forgot to do that. They now have 182 million shares as of the report for the quarterly results. So we'll use that data here as it is. So that gives them a market cap of about 445 million right now. Performance over the last 12 weeks has not been great, but it hasn't been great for any of the miners really. Excuse me. When we look at them, current hash rate, that should have been updated too. That's actually down right now. Why is that not popping up? Oh, because they didn't update February and March yet. But they're at 1.6 exahash right now as it is on that one. So let me fix that really quick while we're at it, just so we have the latest data on it. But I know what I didn't do. I didn't take these stuff out here. That was my mistake. I should have taken that stuff out. Okay. As they're moving stuff around, right, from their old sites that they were hosting at to the new sites they're hosting at, we'll maybe get an update if they provide the monthly updates. All right, so that should be fixed. 1.6, future hash rate, maybe somewhere around 2.8. We don't know exactly where they're going to get to. When they actually buy the new machines and what machines they're going to buy, well, we really don't have any insight into that. At least hasn't been provided as a press release on that one. Okay, current HODL as of the end of January is what the report was, 768.7 for Bitcoin. They do HODL also quite a bit of ETH there. BTC value is though 66 million on that. Their HODL to market cap is 14.9, almost 15% on that, and each share has about 36 cents on it currently. Their BTC production here has been coming down over the last couple of months. It kind of peaked here a little bit after the halving event in October, and it's been coming down ever since then. So they are kind of removing their hash rate as well, last 2 months at least. as they're moving it over to other sites and getting rid of some of the older machines, selling those, whatever it might be. Bitcoin revenue here has also continued to come down here. They're at 2.87 million now in January, roughly. And that's come down from November 3.89. That's definitely like a third of where they were pre-halving. They were at almost 7 million here in March, 6.5 million in April, right? We had the halving event happen in, when was it, actually April there. We had it happen towards the end. So they haven't really kept up with their Bitcoin mining, but they do have obviously revenue from HPCI business. BTC HODL has been kind of all over the place here. It's been coming up here a little bit. They did peak at 1,038 in May. They sold a large portion of that to fund their growth into HPCI, buy sites and a business there as well. And then it's been growing here recently to November 2,813. Then we had a decline here in December, and now they're up a little bit here again in January as it is. Monthly hash rate here, like I talked about, has been coming down here. They peaked at 2.7 roughly exahash in July. Then they started coming down here a little bit in August. They were kind of flat. In November, they kind of increased to 2.5, and then they had quite a dip here, about 700 petahash dip in December. And January, they were down as well. Bitcoin sold, you can see how much they've been selling here recently. BTC per exahash efficiency is still pretty efficient on that time frame as things progress. Not looking too bad there. Bitcoin sold value, you can see that. Okay, now getting into the quarterly results here. This is all the latest data that I have on them. And why didn't, Q4 is over here for some reason now. I got to fix that. And I have a Q4 over here as well. I just noticed that instead of being up front. Okay, so we'll fix that later on. I'll get this updated for you guys. But here's what we have. So Q4 came in at about 10.5 million in revenue. I had them a little bit lower than that actually. When I look at it here. So if we use that number here really quick, include that in there. Sorry guys if I'm scrolling all over the place, just a lot of data that I needed to keep up with. Okay, so there's that. I was off by actually quite a bit, actually more than probably I was before. Not sure why that was. Yeah, I'm off by 10.92%. That's not good. Historically, I've been much better on it. Not sure why I'm off by 10.92%, but I'm off on it obviously. But I can only go by the data that they report. They could have been selling at different times than I would expect. Like the average, they could have been selling, holding on to it for a longer period of time, getting actually more revenue because of that. That's the only thing that would be different from where I'm actually calculating it. Okay, so there's that. Current quarter, we're estimating about 7.5 million here. So revenue was coming down, went up a little bit here in Q4, but it's been coming down for Bitcoin mining. Last 4 quarters, operating cost minus depreciation has come up to 25.18 from 23.68 in Q3. All right, so that's been increasing here as well. Cost of mining 1 Bitcoin minus depreciation has come down to 67,000 roughly for them based on what they reported here. So that's at least good there. Bitcoin mined quarterly has been coming down as well. Not a good sign there, but they're, like I said, getting more into HPCI. Debt to equity, why do I have Q4 in here? Q4 2023 is in here as well. But that came down here, so lower is better, so 0.168, that's fine. Current ratio, 5.39. That's looking good there as well. Total current assets continue to increase. Now they're at 296 million, so that's good. Total current liabilities is at 55 million here, so slight increase, not too bad there. We'll get into some of the numbers up here in a second. We'll also get into some of these metrics here in a second as well. But here's what we have. Current assets, we talked about that, 296 million. Total assets, 538 million. Their current total liabilities is 55 million. Total liabilities at 74 million on it right now. And then total liabilities and stakeholder equity is 538 million. Revenues, okay, so this is where they changed things up on me here a little bit. So it makes it a little bit tougher to figure out things a little bit. The good thing is it still kept the digital asset mining the same. But they included now cloud services here, co-location services, and they got rid of basically high performance computing, and they added other. So it's hard to extrapolate from high performance and computing services where those would go into the cloud services and co-location. Okay, so remember that. They also had, let's see, Ethereum staking, they've had that in there as well. And then total revenues for the quarter here came in about 26 million here. It's actually, it's going to be, yeah, because I don't know what the data is on these things. So I'm using the data here for the full year, subtracting the prior 3 quarters of revenue. So I got 26 million here for them in revenue on that one. Expenses, again, cloud services, co-location, don't have anything attributable to that. So it's hard to include that. So we're really going off of the fiscal year-end numbers for them. Based on that, let's see here. Depreciation was, let's see, about 8.7 million here for the quarter, 32 million for the year. General administrative went up to 16.3 million from 13.6. We'll look at that up top, what that actually represents of their revenues. And then loss income from operations was 32 million positive for them, so they actually had a gain here. Net income before taxes was 28.3 million, so they had basically they earned 20 cents per share, basic, and 19 cents per share diluted on that one. And it's, like I said, it's kind of hard to figure out what their quarterly result was because they changed things up here where I don't have data for it, so I can't really figure it out. Yeah, but that's that. Going up here we talked about their cost to mine and debt to equity, or current ratio, debt to equity as well. We talked about that. Price to book value is now 0.96. Enterprise value is 358 million. EBITDA is 60 million. Their revenue, or let me see, percentage of their revenue and general administrative came in at 62%. And this is just for Bitcoin mining side of things. I think that's actually for all of it, actually. General administrative, let me see here. General administrative was that one. And then based on the revenue here, 26 Q4. Okay, so it is for the whole thing. So 62%. That's an increase from Q3 that we saw before. And that's definitely really, really high. Definitely need to see that come down for it. As far as, again, operation side of things here, how were they profitable and things like that? If we look at just the cloud services revenue was 45 million, right? Their cloud services expenses was 19 million, so that's still pretty good going there. Co-location services was only 490,000 in cost, 1.3 in revenue, so that's still pretty good margins there as well. Bitcoin mining was 58.6 million. Cost on that was 42 million, so not as good as it is on the HPC-AI stuff. Okay. Going back up here. Other thing that I want to talk about, they're talking about getting to a run rate of 100 million. Remember, if you guys recall that last year, their goal was to get it to a 100 million run rate on HPC-AI. Well, they only got to about halfway to that. I'm not sure what the reason was based on what they were reporting as far as contracts and things like that. I don't know if a contract got not extended or something like that with one of the customers or something, or they didn't get the full amount, but that's definitely half of where they thought they were going to be by the end of the year. All right, going down here, institutions and analyst ratings. Those have increased here. Last time I checked, it was actually at the beginning of December here. So now they're at 235. Shares actually increased to 76 million. Percentage owned went down to 43.52. That's a result of dilution. So you can see how that impacts it as well. We now have 4 strong bar ratings, 1 bar rating, 0 hold, 0 underperform, 0 sells. Price target of $7, average $6.10, and low of $5.50. Those all stay pretty much the same here. Based on the current revenue that we had in January, times 12 months, times the revenue that they got for HPC-AI, basically multiplying that times 12 months as well, or dividing that by 12 months and then multiplying it times 12 months again, we get to having them be possibly around 77.2 million here next year. And that's only because of Bitcoin, right? But if Bitcoin mining improves for them, they generate more revenue because of it, that could definitely go up. So based on that, having between 317 and 476, they're at 244 right now. That would seem like they are kind of undervalued a little bit here going forward, but fairly valued for current operations if you look back on the last 3 quarters and the current quarter that we're in, I believe, here. But let me double check that to make sure I updated that as well. There's just a lot of stuff happening here, and yeah, that's going to be, might be down a little bit. Let's see here. Bring that down to last 4 quarters. The current quarter was, let's see here. Bring that down to 7 down here for the current one. And we got in between 182 and 270. Yeah, so they would be fairly valued right now based on that still. All right. Big thing for them is get the Bitcoin miners installed into their new hosting partners as fast as they can. Start to generate some more revenue from that. Build out the HPC as they continue, right? But they're going with these smaller kind of contracts, smaller customers as well. And, you know, wish them all the best. But let me know what you guys think of them. All right, so that's that on Bit Digital here, at least as far as I can tell what's going on with them. And let's take a look at the weekly for the smaller miners here. We'll go through this relatively quickly here. You can see on the top chart where the miners are from their 52-week lows and how far away they are from their 52-week highs. Bitcoin's done the best here. Bitcoin's up almost 71%. Digihost, second best, up 46%, followed by BitDigital, up 38%. Argo, 37%, and DMG, 12%. For last week numbers here, everybody was down here. Bitcoin was down 3%, BitDigital was down 4%, Argo was down 9%. That way you guys can see this chart over here. DMG looks like it was flat on the data maybe. BitDigital was down 10%, Bitcoin down 13%. 8 weeks ago, BitDigital was down 34%, Bitcoin's down 20%, Digihost down 55%. And on the 12 weeks, Bitcoin's down 11%, BitDigital down 23%, and then Digihost and Argo are both down 33% on it as it is. Now looking at the larger miners here, things look a little bit different. We have also included in here MicroStrategy, or now Strategy in here as well. So from the 52-week lows, Core has done the best, up 237%, followed by Strategy, up 194%. Then we got BitDeer, 97%, Hut 8, 81%, IREN, 73%, and Bitcoin's only up 70% here, 71 roughly. All of those guys have at least outperformed slightly or greatly to Bitcoin. And then we got all of these miners over here that have well underperformed from Bitcoin. Riot being only up 23%, Cypher 14%, Cleanspark 10%, Marathon 9%, Hive 4.8%, Bitfarms 4.7%. And you can see how far away they are from their 52-week highs down here. Now looking at the last week's performance on these guys, Core did the best. It was up 13% actually. Strategy was up 4%. Bitcoin was down 3%. Everybody else was down, with Cypher being down the most, followed by Marathon, Hive, and Bitfarms along with Cleanspark. 4 weeks, things change a little bit here again. Bitcoin at that point is down 13%. MicroStrategy has done the best, being down only 1%. Worst performer here is Cypher, still 45% from that, followed by IREN and Hut 8 and Hive. Going to 8 weeks, Bitcoin's down 20%. Strategy again has outperformed a little bit by Bitcoin. Biggest losers were Hut 8, BitDeer, followed by, I would say, Cypher, IREN, Core, and Hive. And then 12 weeks, we got Bitcoin being down 11%. MicroStrategy, again, just slightly better than Bitcoin here, down 10%. But BitDeer has done the worst, 56%, followed by Hut 8, Hive, Cypher, and Core as well at that point. Seems like the one that, out of the miners at least, Core, obviously, not Core, but Cleanspark has been doing kind of the best here, I think, out of, yeah, it's down to 31%. That one's been holding up pretty good compared to some of the other ones. Surprisingly enough, I think it's been beaten down quite a bit over last year, and maybe some people are not seeing that much of a downside left to it. Maybe that's why it's not performing quite as badly as some of these other guys here recently on it. And that's it. Yeah, we had another red week here this week. We're seeing a lot more red here over the last 4 weeks. On the miners, prior to that was a little bit better. We saw more green and a little bit more divided on it. But that's kind of what we are seeing here on. So that's all I got for you guys. Let's get into the questions and answers part of it. And as always, Patreon members get access to my spreadsheet. Link for that is down in the description as well. All right, let's get into Q&A. And then we'll call it a day. Then we'll start the new week and see where we end up at. As always, if you guys could preface the questions with a question mark or a Q, I would appreciate it. And I'm going to just scroll up here. I see we don't have too many questions, which is kind of good. We'll maybe have a pretty short one. We're going on roughly 20 some odd minutes now. Let's see. Okay, Heinz's got a question here. Futures are red if we tank, buying or selling, guys. I would be buying if I could, like I told you guys last week. I'm going to be having my taxes done this week. And then I'll see how much I got to pay in and if I got any cash left over to buy. So I got to prepare for that. I don't want to sell stocks if I don't have to. So that's why I'm kind of scrounging up cash right now just to be prepared in case I do have to pay a sizable amount. All right. William says, quadruple witching week is coming up too. Remind me what that includes. I've heard that before as well, but remind me what that includes. I think it's, what is it? The futures are ending on something. There's something else, right? There's 4 things. Okay. Hi, Sebastian. What do you think about the extreme BTC shorting? I mean, I don't know. Shorting has its place. But this extreme where they're going 40x on something, that just sounds a little crazy. Unless you really do have some kind of insider information or something like that where you can do that, then maybe it might make sense. I think it's maybe because, one, like you said, the quadruple witching week is coming up. We have the FOMC meeting, we got the housing, we got other things as well, import data coming in. So there might be some bearish sentiment here this week, which if you look at it that way, I could see why somebody would be shorting there. If you got that much money to short, then yeah, it might make sense. Okay. JK says get ready for tomorrow. Okay, let's see here. Para says 10 million versus 106 million revenue. LOL. Who the heck hell is buying BT, Bit Digital? People are buying it. Well, it wasn't 10 million in revenue. It was they were talking about. No, it wasn't 100. Oh, you're talking about the 106 million revenue in total versus 10 million. The revenue for Bitcoin mining was more than that. See, Para says only clowns that follow the Bitcoin mining guy. How do I phrase this? Bitcoin mining stock guy reached out to me, was it probably last year, right? Maybe, yeah, it was like last year, right around the springtime. He reached out to me if I wanted to do some spaces with him. You know, I've never had any issues with him. Yes, he can be kind of out there all over the place, but to me, he's always been very kind, cordial with me. So I've never had any issues with him. I know there's a lot of people out there, not only Bitcoin mining stock guy, but a lot of people that just post, you know, anything that comes to their mind sometimes. I'm not one of those guys. You guys can see that on X. I only post if I have something of value to add to you guys. I usually don't get into all the little minutia and all the small stuff that goes on in there. And it's just, that's not me, for one. And the other part of it is I'd rather spend the time with my family, my kids, than be on X and be trolling people. But that's just me. Let's see. Par says BNB, Binance Coin, to outperform everything. Been saying it since last year. So you're thinking the Binance will outperform because of, who was it? Somebody invested, what was it, $4 billion in them or something like that last week? All right. Seb, do you track the NAV for each mining company you follow? If so, can you update us on that, please? NAV, I don't track that. I could probably track that. I think I could probably figure that out relatively easily on that. All right. IREN and Cleanspark, JN, in terms of what you thinking will perform better, higher price targets. Okay. I would think, so this is kind of interesting dilemma between Cleanspark and IREN. Cleanspark has a HODL position, IREN does not, right? Cleanspark does not have any ambitions for HPCI, IREN does. So it could be either or, I guess, depending where Bitcoin goes and where HPCI goes as well with them. So if Cleanspark could do very well because they have a nice large HODL position, but they're also growing quite nicely here. Bitcoin going up to 200,000, I think they would benefit probably more than IREN would. But then again, if IREN gets an HPCI deal for their Sweetwater sites, that could also do very well. So that's why I own both, because I don't know. They're both great operators when it comes to Bitcoin, but there's just two differences that I can really tell. One, IREN has a little bit of advantage as far as cost to mine, whereas Cleanspark's got a little bit higher than them, but not much. But they're also mining more right now. They're getting to 50 plus exahash. They're both getting to 50 exahash, but I think Cleanspark might grow more than that. And then just IREN has the HPCI potential there, and they don't have the HODL, right? So it's just, we'll see which one works out best, though. Okay. Bar has a question here. How many rate cuts are you predicting this year? And if so, when do you expect the next rate cut to be? I think the next one might not be until like May, honestly, depending what we happen or what we see with tariffs, what impact will those do over the next couple months. I think that will be, I think the market itself and the bets are being put on that there's maybe now a higher percentage, a chance that this is going to happen in maybe May to start with. And then we could possibly see, depending on the impact of the tariffs, we could possibly see, you know, maybe two more after that. But we will see. Let's see. Nilov Cam says, this BTC shorting eerily looks like the minor shorting that we were laughing at. But there's always shorting in Bitcoin too. I don't know exactly what the extent of that is. In the miners, you can kind of see it as far as which ones are getting shorted more or less. But yeah, this continues to go on. There's always going to be people that are going to be bullish, and there's always going to be people that are going to be like, this is crazy, shouldn't be valued nowhere near this is going to be going down, this is a scam, whatever it might be. So it always goes both ways. More Tim says, Bitcoin Act is not likely to pass. Bitcoin won't do anything until Fed cuts in June or they find a way to acquire Bitcoin in revenue neutral fashion and the tariff thing is real. Revenue neutral, like I said before, you could use possibly the the gold visa for people that want to come into the United States for $5 million. Use a portion of that, 100,000, whatever it is. Use a portion of that. You can buy Bitcoin from that. You can buy a lot from that if we get as many people as they say they want to do that. So you can do that. And then the bill, I think, the Bitcoin Act, I think is will pass. I think we saw some Democrats also support it. I think it was maybe one right now that I saw. But yeah, if we can get that passed later on this year, it's not going to be something that's going to be done within the next week or two. It's going to take a couple months. But I think that still might get passed. Target price for Cleanspark by the end of the summer, depending where Bitcoin goes. I keep saying that, unfortunately. Bitcoin, flatlines here for a couple months. We might be in these kind of price ranges. If we start going up on Bitcoin, I would expect them to go up much higher. Right? If Bitcoin goes up to, by the end of the year, to 200,000, let's just say that we're still bullish on Bitcoin, and it goes to that point, I would expect them to do at least like 3x from where they are right now at the very minimum. With Bitcoin going up almost, what would be, Bitcoin would be going up 2.5x roughly from where it's at. So then I would expect them to do at least that, maybe a little bit better. But yeah. SARS as Cleanspark end of summer, $9 to $10. Yeah, depending where Bitcoin goes. All right. Ron has a question here. Hey, Seb, do you think the bear cycle, hopefully not anytime soon, will be similar to previous ones in terms of price with growing adoption? So in terms of price, if we have a similar cycle where we actually end up, going to like 200,000, something like that, maybe 150,000, 200,000, whatever it's going to be, somewhere around there. And then we have another correction going down 60, 70% on Bitcoin. Could that play out that way? Possibly. But again, this cycle is already different from the previous cycles that we've had. So could we have an extended cycle? I keep talking about that. There's always possibility of that. So the only way we're going to know which one it is once we actually go through it, unfortunately. There's no way to see into the future. We can only look back what has happened prior cycles. We can kind of see that on the charts here. Let me see, go back to Bitcoin here really quick. Let's go to the weekly chart here. Let's see if we can scroll this out, maybe. Okay, so here's what we can tell prior cycle, right? This was the cycle in 2021. We had a parabolic rise here in Bitcoin. We have a double top, right? Because China banned Bitcoin mining, that crashed things. And then we bounced off of it, and we bounced off of the 50-day simple moving average here, got up to a new high, and then we finally fell down, right? It's currently, and it was pretty quick here, right? We kind of went up, but look at this cycle here. We were at a new all-time high before the halving event, which has never happened before. After that, we went basically downwards or sideways for quite a few months here before finally bouncing off the 50-day moving average again, and we went back up. What's going on here recently? Well, we're kind of going sideways again for quite a few months, almost 3 months, 3.5 months, something like that. We finally had that drawdown here, that big dip here that we saw last, the first week of March, it looks like, that week, at the end of February into March. We had that big dip there where we were down 14%. And we bounced off of the 50-day simple moving average, and we could possibly, we could do the same thing that we did here. Go for a couple of weeks where we go up higher, come back down, test that 50-day, and then finally go back up or go sideways some more before we go back up. But that's why I'm saying this is definitely different from what we've seen here. It's definitely different from what we've seen here as well. After this halving event, right? Look at this. This was the 2017. We had the halving event in 2016. Then we got into 2017, parabolic rise, and then parabolic fall. So that's why I keep saying I think this might be a different cycle all around where we have, these gains of 100% plus, we correct 30, 35% over a longer period of time. We go back up, correction for a longer period of time, go back up. It's basically like these steps. We go up, have a step, have a riser, have a step, have a riser, and continue onwards. Maybe. The only way I'm going to know this actually happened is when we're actually past it. But this is just kind of right now what my theory is on what might be the case. All right. Yeah. Your thoughts on Rex Bitcoin Corporate Treasury Convertible Bond ETF bullish for Bitcoin? Rex, I haven't heard about that. Rex Bitcoin Corporate Treasury Convertible Bond ETF, uh, adoption, whatever it is, convertible notes, bonds, convertible bonds, Bitcoin. Yeah, I would think that would be bullish, depending how much is bought into it. Guy says, looks like this cycle will be different cycle than the past. We might already topped for this cycle. I don't think that we have topped yet. The only reason I say that is because of all the adoption that we're seeing here. I think the adoption is going to only continue and it's going to only increase as well. States, right? I keep talking about all this stuff. So I don't think that the top is in here. I think we are just in a different cycle. Let's see, Para, not really a question, but I think tariffs will really only impact sectors that sell products internationally. Companies like Tesla and Apple will be most impacted. I do not use miner. I do not. USA miners will. So you don't think miners will be impacted? Depending where they're getting their products from. That's the only thing I can think of. Tariffs on like steel, aluminum, and things like that will have an impact on the ASICs a little bit there, because I think the cases of the ASICs are made out of aluminum. Depending where those are coming from and where the, yeah, I mean, we'll see in time how this all plays out. All right, let's see. Question, to add to that, people have not really priced in tax cuts for earners making 150,000 or less. That is a big, that's big as quantitative easing in my opinion. That's if it gets through. And that might be tough to get through, right? You got that, because tariffs are one thing, right? Tariffs are paid by the people that are importing into the United States. So if the company that I work for, if we import something from another country, we pay the tariffs on it, which then we raise the pricing on the products that we sell because of that tariff. And that goes to the consumer, right? We can eat a little bit of it, but we're going to eat up the whole 25% in tariffs, right? The company that I work for has to make money as well. We try to keep our profit margins around 20-25% roughly, somewhere around there. So that's what we're going to do. But that's definitely going to increase pricing on things. And I know Trump's thought process is to get manufacturing in here, but that's going to take time. That's going to take years. You can't just flip a switch and be tariff on you. Now everything's made here. That's going to take time for that to happen. But in the meantime, there's probably going to be some concessions, some negotiations going on as well, and things will maybe not be as high as we've been seeing here. I think it's Trump trying to be a strongman basically, and shock the market and everybody else. All right, let's see. Seb, the short interest in Cleanspark has increased by another 3%. It's now confirmed to be at 30% at this level. What's the new target price? Well, depending where Bitcoin goes, again. But that's interesting that the number of shares shorted there went up. I think it's maybe because Bitcoin's coming back down, but yeah, that's not good. All right. Do you think the NASDAQ is middle term top? In the case, BTC will be more injured. Do I think the NASDAQ is in middle term top? I don't think it's middle term top. I don't know. I would say it's in a corrective motion right now. And I think that's mostly driven by the tariffs, unfortunately. When will that subside? I mean, it's not unnormal for the NASDAQ to go down a certain amount as well, right? Let's see here. Dow Jones, there it is. NASDAQ, here's the NASDAQ composite. We've had drawdowns before where we went down on it. Last one was back in 2021. We had a correction all the way down to about 36% on it. Right now, we are only down approximately 14% or so, or at least we're down 14%. So it's not unusual for NASDAQ to come back down. We do need these kind of corrections. There was a 12%, almost 13% correction back here, back in 2023. We had another correction here in 2024 in the summer of July. Now it went down 15%, so it's not out of the question here. I mean, a lot of these have corrections happening here. This one's definitely a little bit deeper than we've seen here on the Dow Jones. That's down roughly, what is that down? That's down approximately almost 10% on it. And we've had those as well. We had a little bit more correction here in 2022 where we were down 22% over a period of time. We had the pandemic, right, drop there. We went back up. So these things do happen. We do need these corrections from time to time. As long as the economy holds up, we may not be in that bad of a shape. Okay, there's that one. Sadie, thanks so much for the likes. All right. Which miner do you think will have better Q1 numbers than Q4 numbers? As far as revenue is concerned, I would have to look at the numbers here to see where we're trending now, but there might be a couple that might have better. But the only thing is that if Bitcoin stays this low in these ranges, some of the guys that are using the FASB rules for Bitcoin will be hurt a little bit by it because Bitcoin has come down in price, right? So you're going to have an offset on that. So you're looking at maybe, what, 10,000 decrease in per share or per Bitcoin they own. That's going to bring them down. Okay, does SDIG filing Form 25 with SEC mean the merge is officially complete? Oh, that, I don't know. Let's take a look at it here so we can find out. Let me see here. Where is it at? Let's see. Going down here. Bear with me while I pull this up, SDIG. Stronghold, there it is, okay. So let's go to the screen here really quick. Welcome back. Yeah, your feedback's 20 notification filed by National Securities Exchange to report the removal from the listing. I would imagine so. So when is this being? Let's see. That's based on that date. Pursuant to the requirement of the possible grounds filing for assigned to have a. I believe so. Expires March 31st. That's all we got on it. Notification removal from listing and or registration under. So yeah, we'll see. If it's not trading tomorrow, then yeah, the buyout by Bitfarms has gone through. So we'll see that when it stops trading tomorrow on the NASDAQ. Okay, that's interesting. Okay, so we talked about that a little bit on Friday, I believe it was. Somebody provided, on X at least, information that they were seeing shares getting transferred over from, they had Stronghold shares and they were getting actually Bitfarms shares at the 2.52 multiple at that point. Okay, interesting. So that's good. That's one good thing Bitfarms has gotten done here, right? They kept their word that they're going to get the merger done and over with in the first quarter, and sure enough, they got it done. Okay, Ron, there's a question here. How does high institutional holding affects Bitcoin decentralization, and are there any risk of a few institutions controlling large portions of Bitcoin, MicroStrategy, for example? Well, you've always had that in Bitcoin for the most part. You've always had the whales that had, 100 plus, 1,000 plus, 10,000 plus Bitcoin, whatever it might be. You've had that from the beginning. So those guys were always kind of in control, more or less. They were the ones that were able to push the price up higher, push the price down lower, whatever they wanted to do with it. They had the control because they had the majority of the coins there. So they were moving the markets there. With institutions having it in there now, at least my thought process, I could be wrong on this, is that Bitcoin's volatility will decrease over time, meaning we won't get these kind of huge spikes of it going up, 10,000% and then coming back down 70% from that. I think it's just going to be slower gains, but the gains are going to be bigger because the price is much higher from where it's at right now. But we're going to see that happening throughout the next couple of years, going into the next decade or so on that one. Stefan, thank you so much. Okay, David has a question here. What happens if China decides not to ban Bitcoin miners to be shipped to the U.S.? Not to ban Bitcoin miners to be shipped to the United? I'm not quite understanding your question there. They haven't banned the exports. Could they ban the exports to the United States? Maybe they could do that. But they're losing money on that anyway, so it doesn't make any sense for them to do that, I don't think. But then the miners would probably go to somebody else like Canon and WhatsMiner and the other miners that are out there. They would maybe go to BitDeer miners, transition to those possibly. So they have other avenues that they could go into. All right, so yeah, all right, this makes more sense, yeah. So what happens if China bans the export of the Bitcoin miners? Yeah. There's other options out there right now. But that wouldn't be good, obviously. Yeah. Okay, let's see. Honestly, I've rarely seen a U.S. listed stock with short interest exceeding 30%. Well, if you recall, a couple years back, we had GameStop, which was a heck of a lot more shorted than even Cleanspark is right now. Yeah, there's just definitely a lot of negative sentiment on the miners right now. Let's see. Cleanspark's earnings report was excellent at this time, yet the stock has been heavily shorted, dropping from 12 to nearly 7 right now. It's at a level of extreme market panic. I would agree. All right. No matter what, I bought more shares at this level. I just can't imagine the price continuing to decline. It might decline a little bit more. All right, Ron has a question. Can governments regulate BTC beyond taxation, and would targeting miners be the most effective approach? Can they regulate it more? They could. I mean, they were trying to with Biden administration a little bit. They were trying to, get as much information on the miners as possible, where their sites are at, their everything else. So they were trying to figure something else out there for it. Would targeting miners be the most targeting miners? I mean, you could target them by having them pay higher taxes on possibly electricity, but then you're singling out a single industry, and I don't think that would be a good thing. I don't think that would go very far. Yeah, I just don't see that happening. It's just so decentralized. It's not just in the United States. They're all over the place. So I don't think that would be something that would work out. Kite says, miners work only when BTC is over 3x, 4x of mining plus operating costs. Sadly, we need to wait for BTC 140,000 first. Otherwise, just hold BTC, sadly. Yeah, I hold Bitcoin. I hold the miners as well. There's definitely ways to do it. All right. Did you hear about China building a thorium molten salt reactor? I have heard something about that. They're using, they're supposed to be, what did I hear? I heard that the cost is so much lower than what it is in the United States to be able to do that. They're using the latest generation reactors there. China, I gotta admit, is kicking our butt in the electricity space right now. They got so many power plants that they're going to be putting up, whether it's not only coal but also nuclear, and they're also working on, was it fission or fusion? I get the two mixed up. I wish they would have like different sounding names, fission and fusion. I think it's fusion reactors. I think they're also trying to work on that. Other countries are working on that as well. But they're just kicking our butt right now as it is. We need to really step it up here in the United States in order to become competitive in the future. Let's see. All right. Morton says, Par, the tariffs fear is about 1, higher inflation, delay rate cuts, 2. Okay. All right. With how bad the miners have performed this bull run, how bad do you expect them to perform going forward? I mean, yeah, they've done pretty badly last year, I would say. But even if you look at from where the bottom was on the miners to where they are now, they've done really well, actually, if you got in at the right time, right? So, and that's the tough part. Getting in at the right time, if you can do that, you're going to be doing, better than 99% of the people. So if you look at just different time frames, they have done pretty well, depending when you got into them, is what I'm trying to say. Last year, the pure play miners did horribly. The ones that were going to HPC AI have done better. I'll admit that for sure. How badly do I expect them to do going forward? Right now, to be honest with you guys, the way things are looking just on the miners and everything else over the last, I would say, 3 to 6 months, I'd be happy if they just followed Bitcoin. Bitcoin goes up 2x. I'd be happy if they at least did that. Do I think they can do possibly still better? I still have a glimmer of hope that they can do better than that, based on the simple fact that they're going to be generating so much more revenue. That's what I'm seeing there. But will the market respond to it that way? I don't know. Okay. Why do you say that Cleanspark will continue to decline? Will market sentiment get even worse, or is there something even worse about to happen? I think right now we're just kind of trading sideways. Tariffs are having an impact, right? Recession fears, and people are talking about recession. Trump's talking about it as well, though we might have a small recession there. That's not helping things out. Things that would help us out right now is interest rate cuts. I think that would help out. Also, coming down with the tariffs, that would help us out. I think market wants certainty. We're not getting that right now. So for those reasons, I think we might be coming down more, and maybe in Bitcoin price itself and the miners as well, a little bit at least. I don't know exactly where we're going to go, but I think there still might be some downward pressure here, at least in the short term. But you'll see. But we'll see. Okay. Do you intend on changing your content? Looks like the miners are a dud. We'll see where we end up at. I still don't think that we're done with this cycle. I think the later part of the year will be good for not only Bitcoin, but for the miners as well. If that becomes a dud at that point, maybe I'll think about it. At that point, it's like, okay, do we need to talk about more so on the electricity side of things, where things are going? Get more into nuclear, micro reactors, all that stuff, looking into those things, maybe. But I'll give it still time for the end of the year to see how we play out and all this stuff. But right now, I don't have any intentions to change that just yet. All right, we've been going on almost an hour here, almost 50 minutes. We'll call it a day. We'll see what happens tomorrow. Like I said, when we talked about it earlier in the stream, I'd like to get a concrete answer from BitDigital if they are stopping to provide the production updates for the monthly. And then let's see, we got one more question here from Yellow Gambler. Really quick before we finish up here. Yellow Gambler has it. There it is. What do you think about 75-day lag theory between M2 start rising and BTC rising? M2 has been rising since January. I don't know enough about that one. I've heard that before from others. I don't know if that's going to, some have said a little bit longer, some have said a little bit shorter, but I don't know. I know the M2 supply has been increasing here, and we can probably take a look at it. Maybe tomorrow we'll take a look at it or something like that, but I just don't know. But yeah, I'll leave it at that. We'll see what happens this week. Papa Powell's talking on Wednesday. Got a lot of economic data coming out this week as well. We'll see where all that leads us to. That's why I said this could be another tough week for us here, depending on what the sentiment is, not only from Fed Chairman Powell, but overall data. So brace yourselves just in case. All right. I'll see you guys tomorrow. We'll talk about everything else. Thank you so much for coming in as always. Hope you guys have a wonderful week and love you all. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Bye.